Hello and welcome into this week's NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from R&N. On today's Trucks Rewind, we are looking back at Thursday night's 7th annual Eldora Dirt Derby, 150 laps. 75 miles around the half-mile dirt track, Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio. This race, as it does every year, put on a really good show. It ebbs and flows a little bit from year to year. Some of these races are better than others, which, I mean, is expected. Not every one of them is going to be a great race. This, I think, was one of the better dirt derbies we've had. I think this showcased dirt track racing better than a lot of the dirt derbies usually do, because a lot of the dirt derbies we don't usually get the high line really working all that well. There's not a really good cushion to play with up there, but I think this time around we had a really good cushion that the drivers could play with, and I think that really showed off that high line, what the high line can do on a dirt track, and I think that produced some really good racing in this race, and there were still some guys that could make the bottom work if they really needed to. And some guys like Chase Briscoe really had to use the bottom line after leading a bunch, getting mired back in the pack, fighting his way back to the front. With everybody running around the top, he kind of had to make something work around the bottom. And for the most part, he could really make that bottom work even when the speed was really mostly around the top, and that's where most everybody was. There were 12 caution flags in this race, though, for a total of 68 laps. We're going to go through these very quickly. Not a surprise that there's a lot of cautions in this race. There usually are, because you've got a lot of drivers in this race that have varying skill levels on dirt. Some drivers, it's their first time on dirt. Some drivers, they've been on dirt a few times now, and they're still not very good at it. So some of these drivers, I think, are kind of expected that they would wreck at least once or twice in this race. First caution came at lap 14. The 20 of Landon Huffman spun in turn 2. Lap 25. The 03 of Jake Griffin spun in turn 2. Stage 1 concluded at lap 40 with Chase Briscoe taking the Stage 1 victory. Remember, he won last year's Eldora Dirt Derby. So he was very strong early on in this race as well. Lap 57, the 18 of Harrison Burton spun on the backstretch. Lap 65, multi-truck wreck in turn 1. This actually might be the biggest wreck we've seen in a dirt derby. We had a lot of trucks involved in this one, including the 3 of Carson Hocevar, the 03 of Jake Griffin, the 12 of Gustine, the 20 of Landon Huffman, 32 of Devin Dodson, the 22 of Austin Wayne Self, the 51 of Christian Eckes, the 8 of Colt Gilliam, the 16 of Austin Hill, the 13 of Johnny Sauter, the 34 of Mason Massey, the 44 of Jeffrey Abbey, the 18 of Harrison Burton, and the 24 of Brett Moffitt. Lap 78, the 34 of Mason Massey spun once again in turn 4. Stage 2 concluded at lap number 90. Chase Briscoe took the Stage 2 victory as well. So looking like we're on our way to another Chase Briscoe Dirt Derby diecast winner. Will that serve true to the end of the race? Lap 96, 45 of Ross Chastain spun in turn 3. Lap 105, the 54 of Kyle Strickler spun in turn 4. He had a very good run going before this in that 54 for DGR Crosley. I thought he might be able to sneak up there and be the first dirt ringer to win one of these dirt derbies. Lap 121, the 6 of Norm Benning stopped on the track. Lap 134, the 51 of Christian Eckes and the 32 of Devin Dodson got together in turn 2. And lap 142, final incident of the night, the 27 of Chase Briscoe, the 99 of Ben Rhodes, and the 33 of Mike Marlar got together in turn 1. One lead change in this race. So only 2 drivers leading laps in this race. Chase Briscoe led the first 93 laps from the pole, then lost that lead on lap 93, and Stuart Friesen never gave it up for the final 57 laps of this race. Had a really good charge from Sheldon Creed at the end of the race. I thought Creed might be able to get to him, but just Friesen was too strong there at the end of the race, and Friesen comes away with his first career victory. After a disappointing last couple of weeks and putting himself in a not-so-great position, in a precarious position where he might miss the playoffs, he comes back very strong here on a track surface that he is very familiar with and very good on in dirt track racing, and takes his first Truck Series victory, locks himself into the 2019 playoffs. Again, Sheldon Creed does come home in the second position. Grant Enfinger third. Mike Marlar, the highest finishing dirt ringer in this race, he finished with a strong top 5 finish in fourth. An interesting debacle happening with that truck this weekend. If you hadn't heard, Marathon gas stations was originally on that truck when they showed up this weekend, and then NASCAR told them to take those logos off because apparently the deal that NASCAR has with Sunoco prohibits any other gas station or petroleum companies from sponsoring vehicles. I'm not really sure why, because all these teams have to submit paint schemes prior to the weekend. I'm not really sure why NASCAR would have approved a Marathon paint scheme and then once they got to the track told them, no, you have to take the Marathon logos off. So that was really strange, but at the same time not all that surprising. Todd Gilliland with a strong top 5 finish. A good finish for him, but at this point he still needs a win to get in the playoffs, and he's got one race left to do it at Michigan. Rest of your top 10, Christian Eckes, after a couple of incidents, rebounds for a strong 6th place finish. Chase Briscoe, even after his couple of incidents, came back for a 7th place finish. Tyler Dipple in 8th. Tyler Ankrum rebounds for a top 10 finish. Wasn't really around the front most of the night. Again, I'm not really sure dirt racing is really his forte, but a good strong run on the night in the 9th position, and Matt Crafton rounds out the top 10. Next page, 11th through 20th, Ross Chastain landed in 12th after a couple of spins on the night. Ben Rhodes in 14th. Kyle Strickler, after his spin late, he came home one lap down in the 18th position. 21st through 30th, Johnny Sauter, 5 laps off the pace after a couple of incidents. 21st on the night. Dirt racing, not really Johnny Sauter's forte either, so not surprising to not really see him up toward the front. He never really does all that great in these dirt derbies. Carson Hocevar, his first start in the Truck Series, running that 3 for Jordan Anderson. He came home in 25th after that big multi-truck incident in the middle of the race. Gustine in 28th. Brett Moffitt, 9 laps down in the 29th position. Final page, 31st, 32nd. Harrison Burton and Austin Hill both getting caught up in incidents at different points in the race. Harrison Burton was still running at the end of the race, although many laps down. Austin Hill was the only truck retired from the race at the checkered flag. So that's your results from the Dirt Derby. We're working on a Stuart Friesen interview. Not sure when exactly that will be up, but when it is, it will be linked down below in the description. But if you're watching this before that goes up, make sure you're subscribed and you got your notifications turned on. You will see when that Stuart Friesen interview goes up. Alright, so we'll take a look at your playoff grid before wrapping up here today. Obviously, Stuart Friesen now has his name in blue as he is locked into the playoffs with a win. And he has vaulted up to the 4th position now after a couple of stage victories, gave him a couple extra playoff points from earlier in the season. So he sits 4th now above Ankrum and Hill, who only have the race wins and no extra playoff points. Grant Enfinger, Matt Crafton, your 2 drivers in on points at the moment, which amazingly enough, they are the top 2 guys in overall points at this point. They have been the most consistent drivers this season, yet neither one has won a race. So that is the most amazing part of all of this to me, is we could have one of these guys that's currently outside the playoff grid win at Michigan. We could have Ben Rhodes, Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Sheldon Creed. Any of these guys could win at Michigan, and that more than likely, I think, would knock Matt Crafton out, depending on what kind of a day Grant Enfinger has at Michigan. Yeah, it would take a lot to knock Grant Enfinger out at this point. I don't know. Matt Crafton would have to have a perfect day, basically. He would have to win both stages and win the race, and Enfinger would have to finish last with no stage points. And I think that's basically the only way Crafton would get over Enfinger. So I think Crafton is probably sweating a little bit at this point because he knows there's a lot of desperate drivers outside the playoffs right now, a lot of very talented desperate drivers that can win races. We've got about 4, maybe 5 drivers outside the playoffs right now that very easily could win at Michigan and put themselves into the playoffs. And if they do, Matt Crafton really can't do anything about it. So that's the interesting part here. Matt Crafton is second in overall points. I want to stress that once again. Matt Crafton is second in overall points right now and could miss the playoffs if any of these 4 guys win at Michigan. That's the craziest part here. That we've got a very wild playoff grid this year in the trucks. Just let me re-emphasize that. If Matt Crafton gets knocked out of the playoffs, the only driver to get on points will be Grant Enfinger, who is number 1 in overall points right now. He will be the regular season champion unless something weird happens. And that's amazing to me that it's very possible that the regular season champion could be the only driver to get into the playoffs on points, and the guy that's second in overall points could miss the playoffs if one of these other guys wins at Michigan. That's amazing. How jumbled up this playoff grid is this year. Let's just quickly take a look right now at where some of these guys that have wins are in the playoffs right now. Stuart Friesen is the highest in points. He is 3rd in points right now. Brett Moffitt sits 4th in overall points. Then you have to go down to 9th, where Austin Hill sits. Johnny Sauter currently sits 10th in overall points. Tyler Ankrum is 12th, and Ross Chastain is 14th in overall points. So we've got a very wide spread of drivers with wins in overall points right now, and neither of the top 2 guys in points have wins. That's how crazy of a Truck Series season we've had so far, and how crazy this playoff grid is. And at this point, it is legitimately win and get in for any of these guys outside the playoffs at this point. Unless there's some weird scenario that I'm not aware of, I don't think Ben Rhodes can make up 63 points at Michigan without winning. I don't think that's possible. Even if Matt Crafton finishes last and Ben Rhodes wins both stages and finishes second, I don't think he would make up 63 points. I don't think that's possible, even with all the stage points. So it's literally winner get in for all of these guys. Ben Rhodes, Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Sheldon Creed. Every single one of them, they have to win at Michigan if they're going to get into the playoffs. And every single one of those guys can win. That's the incredible part about this. We've got 4 race-winning, capable trucks that very easily could miss the playoffs this year. No matter what, we're going to have 4 race-win capable trucks that miss the playoffs this year, because even if one of them gets in and bumps Matt Crafton out, Matt Crafton's a race-winning capable truck. So we have a very stacked field of full-time drivers in the Truck Series this season. And oddly enough, 8 spots in the playoffs does not seem to be enough this year, and we've actually got some really good competition for those 8 spots, which I don't know that we see a lot in any series any year. I mean, right now we've literally got 12 playoff-capable cars in the Xfinity Series. Those 12 cars have been pretty well set all season, because those are really the only 12 competitive cars in the field week in and week out, aside from Kyle Busch coming down and running or whatever. And then in the Cup Series, you've got 2, maybe 3 drivers outside the top 16 that could sneak their way in, but really you've got about 16 cars that are really playoff worthy. Right now, we've legitimately got about 12, maybe 13 playoff-worthy trucks in the Truck Series. Like, 8 spots is not nearly enough, but I think 8 is the correct number, because if we had more than this, we had 10, 12, 14 spots for the Truck Series playoffs, we wouldn't be talking about this. This wouldn't be a big storyline. This wouldn't be exciting to watch going into Michigan to see who really makes the playoffs, because one of these guys outside the playoffs that wins and gets into the playoffs, we've got a whole nother big storyline, and this is exciting. This is the most exciting playoff picture to watch right now in any of the three series. And this has been really, really fun to watch as we go through the regular season, and I'll be excited to see at Michigan who really does make the playoffs, because I don't think we're set just yet. I don't know that Matt Crafton is as securely in the playoffs as he looks to be. But that's your playoff grid following the Eldora Dirt Derby, and I believe that will do it for us on this Truck Series Rewind. K&N Rewind coming up probably tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, I'm not sure. But then Xfinity Rewind, Cup Rewind, same thing. Saturday night, Sunday morning for Xfinity, Sunday night, Monday morning, somewhere in there for Cup as well. We will have a special diecast review coming up this weekend as well. The one that was planned for this Wednesday, I'm thinking we're better off doing it soon, because it is an extra special one that I think deserves to go a little bit out of schedule. So look for an extra diecast review coming up at some point this weekend. I'm not sure exactly when. Probably here sooner than later, maybe even today. But keep an eye out for that, and we will probably be doing Kyle Busch Phoenix win on the normal diecast review slot on Wednesday. We'll see how that works out, but I think that is probably the plan on Wednesday, is Kyle Busch Phoenix win. So look forward to that. We got a lot coming up for you, including winter interviews. Like I said, we're working on a Stuart Friesen winter interview for this race. Haven't got it quite scheduled just yet, but we are working to try and fit into his schedule. So keep an eye out for that when that does go up. So if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from R&N. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It's much appreciated when you do. And hit that share button. Like I've been saying recently, I just found out apparently YouTube really likes it when you hit that share button. So hit that share button and share it with whoever you think might be interested, even if you think they're not. Apparently YouTube just likes it if you hit the button, not necessarily if the person actually watches the video. I'd love it if you would show it to somebody that would enjoy it and maybe grow the R&N community that way, but apparently YouTube does not really care if the person watches the video or not, so there is that. But at that, this has been the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.